Hey, it's Jordan. I am right outside East Palestine, Ohio, in Darlington, which is right over the border in Pennsylvania. I'm here with Amy and Kevin, and you lived literally at ground zero. Yes. The fire was basically over your backyard, and you were with your grandson in the house when the derailment fire happened. Let's just start with that night, because obviously traumatic, and then the health problems started pretty quickly after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my husband had gone to bed because he got up early in the morning, and I was playing with my grandson, and all of a sudden I heard this very large boom, and I saw this big plume out my kitchen window, and I'm like, well, that certainly can't be very good. And then I heard just this enormous amount of fire trucks passing our house, and I'm going, what? So I went out, and we could see that there was fire on the tracks under part of the train, because my house is right up against the train track. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is bad. And so we weren't really told anything that night. We just went to bed and assumed that, they were going to fix it and everything was going to be okay. And then about midnight, we heard a bang on our front door. It was the police telling us that we had literally 5 minutes to grab something and leave. And I don't know where we're going to go at midnight and what we're supposed to take, and my grandson was all frantic, and because he kept seeing that the fire was coming closer and closer to our house, and he didn't want to go to sleep, and I was so concerned. I didn't want to go to sleep because I didn't know what was going to happen. And so they knocked on our door, and we had to leave with literally 5 minutes notice. And then we were out of our home for a couple weeks. We were staying at my sister's house in New Waterford, and we had no idea what we were coming back to, because we knew that they did the controlled burn, and I didn't know where that took place or what happened or what.
And you didn't even know what chemicals were in the train car.
Nothing. We didn't.
We
nothing at that.
Well, that night, no, we did not know.
Not at the. Yeah.
But 3 days later, we found out that there was vinyl chloride, that there was 2 acrylates, that there was lube oil, that there was benzene. Yeah.
Did you know there were electric cars with lithium batteries that burned?
No.
Great.
I knew that there were cars on that.
Yeah, electric.
On that train. Yeah, but I didn't know that they were electric.
So you returned on February 9th, so that's 3 days after I don't even use control.
Yeah,
burn.
I mean
it's nonsense.
Right.
The nuking of your town.
Correct.
And tell us about the symptoms that began pretty quickly.
Yeah, so I was home every day, and I would get a very scratchy throat and like some rashes. And then I noticed that I had this enormous growth on my face that ran down into my nose, into my mouth, and I had bloody noses, and they were big, like, they weren't even cancer or canker sores. It
was like a sore that was actually, it was out of hurt.
I've never had anything like that happen.
Inside your?
No, it was on the outside of my face.
Like
I have
right
pictures.
Yeah.
And it just went all the way into my lip. I've never had anything like that.
And before this, aside from minor health things, did you have any major health issues?
No, I'm healthy.
Okay.
Relatively healthy.
So
Yeah.
bloody noses, these sores.
That's not common for me at all.
And for you, when you came back?
I got sores, like, they almost look like
Nice.
hives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, raised hives. I mean, they were all over my back. They were on my neck. And this is only me in the house for about 10 minutes.
Wow.
Because we had to go back and we had to get a few things.
So you were breaking out in these hives in just a few minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
And when your grandson who was there with you that night, did anything happen with him?
Not as far as we know. He was only there that one night, and then his parents came and picked him up, and he has never been back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happens to a child like that.
Right. How old?
He was, well, he's 5 now. He was 4.
He's going to be turned 6.
Yeah.
So you, like many others, you temporarily went to a hotel.
Right.
Away from ground zero, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How were your symptoms then?
Well, we went to my sister's house.
Okay.
And we stayed because she was in Waterford, and everything disappeared.
Okay.
There
We were there from the 3rd to, I believe, the 9th when they lifted the evacuation.
Right.
Yeah.
But
after
when you went back to your home, you were only back at your home for a few weeks?
No, a week.
a week.
A week.
Yeah, the
A week.
9th to the 14th or the 15th, I believe.
So you're having, in that week, the bloody noses, the hives,
Yeah.
and then you went to a hotel.
Yeah.
And tell us about the hotel, and were your symptoms improving at the hotel?
Instantly.
Okay.
Like instantly.
Yeah.
It was like someone turns a switch on and off.
And I mean, even...
Almost like your home is a chemical disaster
Correct.
zone, and leaving.
Shockingly enough.
Yeah, I mean, even to this day, I mean, you know, I might have to go into the home to have somebody look at it or whatever, because I'm trying to sell our home right now. I'm taking a hit on that.
I'm sure.
My home is I'm only gonna get 20,000 from my home. And
If
before
that.
the derailment, it was appraised at like 80-some thousand.
Wow.
So I'm taking a 60,000 hit.
And I want to talk about the testing, because obviously the EPA had Norfolk Southern doing the testing at first, and their contractor, who there's a history of the contractor Norfolk Southern use fudging data and
Yes.
fudging testing, but
Yes.
you're breaking out nosebleeds, hives, all this, and they come in, they do testing, and they tell you.
They said everything is fine. You can
So
live
we
in your
stayed.
home.
So then we went back.
You
and
can
we
live in your
stayed.
home.
Even though it still smelled horribly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know if we're naive or just trusting or just stupid. But when
And we
someone
even-
tells us something,
We
we
even
believe
said
them.
something that day.
Well, you don't think people are going to intentionally put you in harm's way.
And yeah, in the
And they even
these
had
chemicals.
a cop there that day
Yeah.
that went from house to house with these 2 testers that went into our home.
Did you know at the time that the equipment they were using was basically, they were using equipment that you would only use in like industrial settings to find very high levels?
I found that out 6 to 7 months later.
Yeah.
Right.
They had a big article in the paper, and I was infuriated. I was like, you have got to be kidding me.
So basically they were using equipment and measurements that you would really use for like a warehouse or a factory, not to test outside air or, you know, a home. So, okay, you go to the hotel, your symptoms improve. How long were you at the hotel for?
2
About
weeks.
yeah.
Yeah, about 2 weeks.
And then what?
We
And then my mom basically said, you guys are not going back to East Palestine. She's like, I don't care how long you have to live with me. And she was living by herself at the time. She was looking at getting married again because she had just recently lost her husband. And she's like, I don't care how long you have to live with me. She's like, you're not going back. You're not going back. And so yeah, we stayed with her for almost 7 months until we finally got this rental place.
And besides Norfolk Southern, did the EPA itself ever test your home? Or they only relied on Norfolk Southern to test your
just
home?
Norfolk Southern.
Norfolk Southern on the 9th of February.
And we're not talking like you live a mile away. We're talking you live in
Correct.
the derailment is your backyard.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably throw a rock and hit the trains.
So the only testing that was done in your home was Norfolk Southern's contractor, not the EPA,
No.
not the Ohio EPA.
No.
Correct.
Any independent
No.
testing? Okay.
Because they want
They want $15,000 to do an
$15,000.
independent test on our home.
for people that
And I'm
have
like,
essentially lost
what?
everything, and then they want us.
I mean, I
pay
called a few
$15,000.
people and they're like, yeah, this is going to be $15,000. I'm like,
And did anyone, being that you were right there, did anyone from the EPA ever reach out to you?
nope.
No, we've never
We
heard from
haven't
the
heard-
EP. We haven't heard from anyone.
We haven't heard a lick from anybody from the EPA. And as far as that goes, I don't trust anybody that's involved with Norfolk Southern. I don't trust the EPA. I don't trust the government. I don't trust anybody at this point.
Because
Is
they
that,
lied to.
is that you didn't trust them before this happened, or
No.
because of the response?
No, it's because of the response.
and and how
because
they've
of the response.
misguided people and lied to us. I mean, we can handle the truth. Just tell us the truth, and then we can deal with the truth. But don't, blow smoke up our butt and tell us false things. We went back to our home because they said it was safe, and it was not safe. I don't understand how people can sleep at night. It's
And the thing that really, if you had the intention of finding out the true nature of the chemicals, if you're the EPA, you'd want to do the most thorough testing at ground zero, in homes at ground zero.
Yes.
And that doesn't seem like the most thorough testing if you're only allowing Norfolk Southern to do the testing.
Right.
You'd want your own testing. The EPA would want to send their own people out there, which didn't happen. It's been said to me by residents, having Norfolk Southern do the testing is kind of like having your rapist handle the rape kit.
correct.
Now, when you were stayed with your mother for 7 months, the symptoms were still okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we never were sick
And then you relocated to a home where?
in Canfield.
Canfield.
Okay. And tell me about, I know the acute symptoms were better, no nosebleeds and things like that, but about what you started having memory loss.
Yeah.
About when? If you could remember.
About I don't know, a year ago,
Shortly.
8 months
Well,
ago.
no, it's probably close to like 16 to 18 months, because right now it's going on 2 years since the
We're at 18 months now, year and a
Okay,
half.
well,
Yeah.
I
So probably 16 to 18 months, I
Yeah.
would think.
So that would put it kind of spring 2023 you started having memory loss?
yes, and it has just gotten significantly worse, and no one seems to know why. No one seems to understand why someone of my age.
I don't like asking a woman,
It's-
but
Yeah, I'm 55.
okay.
I shouldn't have this severe memory loss.
And it started like a month or two, it seems, after this
Correct,
happened.
after the derailment.
Did it, in the beginning, was it short-term memory loss, long-term, everything?
It's short term. Everything is short term. I can remember what I did 20 years ago, but I can't remember a conversation that I have, right now.
Wow. And obviously you've gone to doctors, you told them what happened with the bloody noses, the the sores on your
Yes,
face.
Yes.
Did they connect dots or?
They have no answers. They have no answers. And I'm confused about that as well.
I want to read an email. It's very long. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there's a toxicologist who has been involved with these kind of disasters for over 50 years.
Is that Petty?
George.
George Petty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He offered his services to the lawyers representing the residents. For some reason, they didn't want to use him. That seems suspect to me. But he has voiced his objections to the settlement, and he has basically been sounded the alarm that everything's not fine. I'm not going to read the whole thing, it's too long, but he basically said that the plume of these contaminants, I mean, we're talking, let me find it here, This independent plume dispersion analysis identified over 126,000 square miles affected in over 8 states, plus additional thousands of square miles in southern Canada. The distance of the dispersed plumes from East Palestine were not circular, as assumed, at a 20-mile radius, because he's been pointing out the 20-mile radius is completely wrong and arbitrary. The plume was expansive, 600 miles eastwardly, at least 300 miles northernly, and 285 miles southerly across 8 different states and much of southern Canada. And he also pointed out that of the 52 rail cars listed on the initial Norfolk Southern manifest, 17 were identified by Norfolk Southern as burned, and another 15 were identified as impinged. The 52 cars contained 24 different chemicals or products. And in terms of the chemicals, which the EPA certainly has not tested for this many chemicals, more than 120 released chemicals are known to cause cancer. 21 different body organs and organ systems are known to develop cancer from these chemical exposures. The 13 petroleum trace elements are known to promote cancers actually caused by other chemicals. And he points out that the vinyl chloride combustion turns into dioxin, which was
A lot of dioxins
involved in Agent Orange. I don't say all this to scare you, but the point is, I mean, he's been a toxicologist for 55 years. He's worked for the government, schools, private companies. Very credible. And it seems to me the EPA, well, I found out weeks ago that the EPA detected vinyl chloride in the soil and just didn't tell anyone.
No.
And then they said, but it was small levels, low levels, but then they wouldn't say what the levels were.
Right.
So essentially, you've said you feel like you can't trust anybody. Do you feel like it's unknowable at this point what and how much you were exposed to? Because it's not just one chemical, there's multiple chemical exposure here.
Correct.
I don't know if we'll ever find out how many. I don't know if anybody will ever tell the truth to let us know the what and the why and the how and.
Yeah, I don't know how many. I don't know how many chemicals were burnt that night. But obviously there had to be some chemicals that were burnt, right?
Well, we know they blew it up 3 days later.
Well, correct.
And we have
yeah.
tons and tons and tons of soot in our home.
And you mentioned the memory loss. Did a doctor diagnose you with anything?
Yes. Technically, it would be dementia, but I don't have any symptoms of dementia other than memory loss.
So they basically diagnosed you as dementia based on the short term?
Yes, and they said they've never seen anyone who's 55 years old have dementia. I said, I have the memory loss. I don't have any other symptoms of dementia.
And was this a neurologist?
Yes, I've been to a neurologist. My brain scan is clear. There's no atrophy. There's no nothing on my brain scan. And they just said the dementia because that's what memory loss, that's the first sign of memory loss is dementia. But they did not know that I was involved in the East Palestine derailment.
Mm-hmm. And did you get a sense from the doctors that this is kind of like they can't really connect the dots?
They can't, and that's problematic for me.
Yeah.
Because how do I prove that?
Right.
I never had it before.
Well, you said your mom has it, but it didn't start at 55.
No,
Right.
she's 72 years old.
Right.
So, and then all of a sudden I start having this extreme memory loss where I can't even keep a job now because I can't remember.
Oh, honey.
I've worked since, I was 16 years old.
She's 77, honey.
Okay, thank you.
77.
Yeah. So your mom's 77, but that shows that
Right.
it's affecting your memory. Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
And it's got to be, I assume you weren't planning on retiring at 55, so it's got to be extremely
Correct. It's
mentally
hard.
tough. Yeah.
Yes, it's very mentally hard. Very, very hard. It's been a rough couple years.
and economically, this is not a wealthy area. So the fact that she can't work, that obviously puts.
Well, I'm out of work too,
Okay.
because I recently just had surgery on my leg.
Okay.
So,
I shattered my fibula and I fractured my tibia.
Having nothing to do with
No.
this. Okay.
No, this was just me trying to have fun with my grandson, and we were jumping on the trampoline, and
and 50-year-olds should not be jumping on trampolines.
I was going, I was,
Doesn't look 50, I'll tell you that.
I know.
well, thank you. Yeah, most people say I'm like 35, 40.
Okay.
See, exactly, see? He's agreeing with me.
I would have gone 40, yeah.
Yeah.
40, okay.
Hi.
So, yeah, I was just trying to have fun with my grandson. He wanted to play popcorn. So we went out to the trampoline, and 10 minutes later, I'm screaming in agony.
And when you hear, when you basically hear from the EPA, all the other agencies that we've tested thoroughly and we're not finding anything of concern, and they had a settlement very quickly. I've never seen a settlement that quickly in just less than a year. What does that say to you? Because to me, and I've covered Flint, so I have experience with this. I listen to the residents, and I don't think residents have told me they're urinating blood or pooping blood. I talked to an 18-year-old girl, 3 months ago, who was having seizures. She was healthy before this. She was wrapped up like a mummy because they were doing a 3-day test for epilepsy. I've heard of strokes.
And they all live in East Palestine still?
Most of them, yeah. So it's kind of like what the EPA is saying defies logic, because either this is the biggest psychosomatic episode in history, or people are still being exposed.
Yeah, I mean, if you have that many people that are having not the same symptoms, but are having different symptoms per person, you have to look into that. So why aren't they looking into that?
Right. And what are your thoughts on the settlement? Because it's $600 million.
From what you just told me about Petty, it kind of raises a red flag for me now. Because are the attorneys just money hungry? Is that what they want? They want the settlement, they want everything to be done.
Well, I also don't know, just common sense. How do you settle when it's not clear, and it can't be clear, what the full health effects are?
Well, that's where I come from, because if our house has not been air tested the correct way, then how are we supposed to settle on something? How? Because as far as I know, they could say, you know what, their house has to be demolished. We have to demolish their house. We have to tear it down. I don't know that. But if somebody goes in and air tests our house and says, oh my gosh, yeah, you guys have 15 chemicals that are running rampant in your house, I can't sell that house.
Right.
No one's going to buy the house anyway.
I can't sell
right
it.
on Taggart Street. All of the heavy machinery from Norfolk is right in our backyard.
Right.
No one's going to buy that house.
And it's just shocking to me you've never been contacted by the EPA.
Correct. Never.
Nope.
Not one time.
I tried to call Mike DeWine once,
That's a joke.
and I left a message on his voicemail.
The governor, yeah.
Yeah. I said, this is so-and-so. I'm calling in regard to the derailment in East Palestine. I would like to call back as soon as possible.
Still waiting.
He never called me back.
Yeah. And what's really troubling about this is, with these kind of things, the government, checks the box. They put out their testing. It seems the media just kind of regurgitates what they say without much investigation. And the media says, oh, testing is showing no chemicals. And then people just assume it's fine.
Yeah.
And the media only stops covering it and
Yeah, I remember Mike DeWine in that conference with Norfolk Southern, with the fire chief. And he said, do not run a train through this city until this conference is over. You know what happened right after the conference was over? A train went through East Palestine.
I can't even.
And the crap that he was throwing with us that the water is good in East Palestine, I don't know where he was drinking that water from.
Well, I've had residents send me pictures of their body rashes, and they're on city water.
Right.
They're not on well water, they're on city water.
That's disgusting.
I actually just was shown a picture from somebody's home of soil, I think it was 15 miles from East Palestine, and there was a chemical plume. So it seems to me that the federal government here essentially let the multi-billion-dollar company that derailed and then nuked you handle the emergency response, and the federal government, instead of taking over immediately, is still kind of working in tandem
Right.
with the company, who has every motivation to not find chemical contamination and to minimize everything. But meanwhile, residents are sick. And I hear from resident after resident, you know, if they go away for a few days out of town or maybe like a short vacation, the symptoms clear up. But when they get back, I mean, I was here in April. We walked into a home, I don't know, a mile away from the derailment site. I, within 2 minutes, had a splitting headache. I don't get headaches.
Right.
And I felt kind of loopy after a while.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the chemicals. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, I don't know how much you know about this, but right now there's a toxicologist, Stephen Petty. He came here. He's been an expert witness in many lawsuits like this. He tested soil, water, took dozens of samples per site. He was the one I saw him say dioxins are the main concern here, and he noted that that was involved with Agent Orange, that disaster. But apparently the plaintiff lawyers representing the residents will not provide his data to the residents. They say his data showed nothing, no problem, but they won't provide the data, claiming legally they can't.
Yeah, I heard something about that. I heard that they destroyed documents or something like that.
Yeah, I can't verify that. All I know is the plaintiff's lawyers contracted, so the lawyers representing the residents contracted this expert to do testing. He came here and did very thorough testing, and they're not providing the results for the residents, claiming they're legally bound, which I've never heard of that before.
Because the attorneys are supposed to be working for us.
Right.
So why wouldn't we be entitled to see that information?
Great question. You would think if it's showing everything's fine, then there's no problem
Then you wouldn't
showing it.
hide anything.
So why would they just want to give up that information?
Yeah. My last question, obviously you're living in a new area, but you've got this memory situation. Both of you are out of work now. I mean, you're not an old couple here. Where does the future seem pretty uncertain?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it does.
definitely. Yeah. And very, very unfair.
Did everything right. You worked, paid your taxes, raised your kids.
Never been in trouble with the law. Never got a speeding ticket even, and I just don't understand why these people are allowed to get away with all of their lives, and no one is helping. If you don't want to do anything more, just help us get out. Then, just help us get out. Buy my house. Pay me what the value is. Take my house, demolish it, do whatever you want to do with it. I don't want my house. It's contaminated. But you should at least do that. so that I can somewhat move on. But everybody's willing to do that.
And also, I would say, I mean, you're entitled to free health care.
Well, yeah, because I have no idea what's going to happen.
I mean, you're out of work right now. Not only health care for issues now, but for continued testing and monitoring.
Yeah,
Residents
right.
should be monitored.
We don't know
Probably.
what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I'd say probably every 6 months, we should probably get tested for dioxins being in our bodies, or
Because even if you do have health insurance, it's not going to cover all that.
No.
And if you don't have health insurance, good luck.
Right. Right.
And Libby, Montana, for example, had a asbestos disaster a while ago. Hundreds of people died. And, during the whole Obamacare fight, the senator from Libby, Montana said, I'll give you my vote to the president, but you need to give my people free health care. They got it. Which they should have, but so should you.
well, that's the thing that I don't understand either. Why this wasn't considered a disaster from day one.
Well, the federal government says the law only allows a disaster declaration for hurricanes, tornadoes, natural disasters. But I don't know when they
That's
have
not
a
true. That's not
That's
true.
what they claim.
Because what just happened in Youngstown? Is it because one person died that that's considered a disaster? And do you know what they're getting?
Right.
They're putting them in houses. They're doing everything for
And
them.
for the audience, what happened in Youngstown?
Yeah.
What happened?
The realty
Oh, the
building.
realty
There was
building.
a gas leak,
Oh,
and it blew up the part of the building.
so that's considered a natural disaster, but
Yes.
a train?
Apparently, yes. And
Yes.
so the residents are being housed in hotels and have been for 3 months now.
Because they're demolishing
Everything is
that building
covered.
now.
Yet we have been out for almost like a year and a half now. We're not getting anything from anyone, and we have to scrape and just to even pay a bill. And these people, and I'm not trying to take away from people that have suffered, that kind of a loss, but this has been totally unfair. No one is doing anything to help the residents get out, to pay their bills, to do anything.
Right.
And I should not, this was not my doing. I should not have to, be living, paycheck to paycheck, or spending all of the money that we ever saved, or cashing in whatever, and we don't even have that. But I mean, Norfolk is just not doing anything to help us. I don't, just like I said, buy my house, take it, do whatever.
You mean the park they made in East Palestine doesn't help you?
Nope.
And what in God's name do you think is going to happen to that park?
Well, we were down there the other day, about, I don't know, a week ago. We saw 3 people in the pool, and they were old people.
I mean,
3 people.
who needs an amphitheater when you have people that are dying?
Yep.
I don't like.
And then they say that they're going to tear up the whole grass in the park. Why are they doing that?
Right.
If there's not a problem, with the park,
Bottom
why
line,
are they tearing up all the grass?
you think this is a federal and state together cover-up?
I believe that Norfolk Southern, they paid off the mayor of East Palestine. They paid off the fire chief of East Palestine. And they might have even paid off the PA.
And Governor DeWine, I do believe it's
Well,
a cover-up. Everything-
There's records. He's gotten a lot of donations
Yeah.
from Norfolk Southern.
I mean, yeah, there's
Oh yeah, I forgot
a
about
definite cover-up.
I don't know
that
about
has taken
Shapiro.
place.
I don't know if Shapiro has gotten anything from them. I don't even know how many times Shapiro has been, in the East Palestine area. I mean, he's the,
Pennsylvania governor.
Pennsylvania governor. Yeah.
He, at the very least, called for a criminal investigation.
Yes.
Your governor hasn't even done that.
Nope.
And what's astounding is it recently came out, the NTSB testified that They found that Norfolk Southern didn't need to blow up those cars.
Correct.
That they actually hid information from the governor.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't tell the governor before the detonation that the chemical car manufacturer was advising them you don't need to blow them up.
Right.
So the governor approved it, not knowing that the experts were saying, yeah, no, just let the cars cool
Right.
down.
Right.
You don't need to blow them up.
Well, he said, I guess that expert said that with the temperature outside, those cars are never going to get hot enough where they'll explode.
And those experts were locked out of the emergency meetings. I mean, you have the owner of the chemicals on the car here on the ground, and they're prevented from being. That's basically you don't want.
Correct.
That's
And
a red flag.
I actually spoke with somebody who works for Norfolk Southern who told me that Norfolk Southern was going to lose about $1 million a day every day that train track was
Well,
closed.
Exactly.
Oh, I understand
As soon
that.
as
I
they cleared
understand
that
that.
off, that train was on there real quick, and you can't imagine the trauma that one experiences when you hear that train crossing that tracks in your backyard. Every time I come to East Palestine, I was going for some counseling because this is traumatic, and I hear that whistle, and I just have
Yeah.
a panic attack.
I can't blame you. That's
But there were so many people that said right after this train derailment that safety was first.
Yeah, that was just a logo.
Our mayor said it, Mike DeWine said it, the fire chief said it. Everybody said safety is the main concern here for us. Safety for everybody. Everyone needs safety.
Do you think that part of this is, in their thinking, if they cleared the town, permanently relocated everyone, that would kind of set a precedent for other potential disasters that they would have to do the same thing?
Sure. But I mean, this horrible situation has so far-reaching effects that you can't recover from something like this. People aren't going to be able to have gardens. People are not going to be able to maintain a livelihood here because the chemicals are now into the ground. You can't just dig up the chemicals and then say, oh, we'll just replant. I mean,
Dioxins in particular hang around for like a century. Dioxins do not.
no.
That's why they cleared out Times Beach, Missouri in the 1980s, because they had a dioxin disaster, and it's a ghost town now.
And
They
they're
cleared it out.
still
So what's the
moving
difference
in.
from this town?
Couldn't tell you. Seems like the same exact thing to me.
If
Yeah.
you have all
But
these people-
I also believe they know that this goes much further than East Palestine.
Correct. It does.
I mean, Toxicologist is talking about 8 to 10 states and Canada. So,
Right. Yeah.
That's crazy. My gosh.
I'm very sorry that you're dealing with this. I'm glad we could at least get the story out.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
we'll be in touch. I want to get those pictures and
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Definitely.